Have you ever felt that the happiness the world offers is never enough? As if there were something more, something you have yet to find? This relentless pursuit of satisfaction has accompanied humanity for centuries. We try to fill it with achievements, material possessions, recognition, and fleeting pleasures. But somehow, something always seems to be missing. C.S. Lewis, one of the greatest thinkers of the 20th century, also experienced this restlessness. He described a peculiar feeling, a kind of nostalgia for a place he had never visited, a longing for what seemed to be his true home. For him, this experience was not just a passing desire but a sign of something much greater. If I find in myself a desire which no experience in this world can satisfy, the most probable explanation is that I was made for another world. This statement by Lewis echoes a profound truth. Genuine joy is not merely a fleeting emotional state, but a glimpse of something eternal. Today, we will explore this journey and understand how we can find a joy that does not fade with time. If this topic resonates with you, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here, we dive deep into reflections that transform our perspective on life, faith, and purpose. Get ready for a deep reflection. By the end of this video, you will see happiness in an entirely new way. We live in an era where happiness is marketed as a product. We are constantly bombarded with promises of instant satisfaction, a new purchase, a new relationship, an unforgettable trip, professional success. Everything seems to offer a glimpse of joy, but soon that feeling fades, leaving us searching for something more. This relentless pursuit is nothing new. Humans have always longed for something ultimate, something that would completely and permanently fill the inner void. However, what we find in the world are merely shadows of that fulfillment, small fragments of a joy that never lasts long enough. C.S. Lewis understood this frustration well. He himself sought meaning in intellect, pleasure, and recognition. But he realized that all these experiences were insufficient. He wrote, "Creatures are not born with desires unless satisfaction for those desires exists. A baby feels hunger. Well, there is such a thing as food. A duckling wants to swim. Well, there is such a thing as water. Men feel sexual desire. Well, there is such a thing as sex. If I find in myself a desire which no experience in this world can satisfy, the most probable explanation is that I was made for another world." If this longing for something more is so universal, perhaps the issue is not what we are seeking, but where we are looking. If the happiness offered by the world never fully satisfies us, maybe we are trying to quench our thirst at the wrong source. If the happiness offered by the world never fully satisfies us, maybe we are trying to quench our thirst at the wrong source. But then, where can we find the joy that truly fulfills? C.S. Lewis walked this path of searching before he discovered the answer. From a young age, Lewis was a brilliant thinker and an avid reader. Raised in a Christian environment, his faith was lost amid suffering and the pains of life. After the premature death of his mother and his harrowing experience in the trenches of World War I, he rejected any notion of a good and loving God. He identified as an atheist, believing that religion was merely a comforting illusion. Yet despite his disbelief, something persisted. He described a deep, inexplicable feeling, a kind of nostalgia for something unknown, a joy that appeared in unexpected moments. This joy was not merely fleeting happiness, but a glimpse of something greater. He wrote, "If I find in myself a desire which no experience in this world can satisfy, the most probable explanation is that I was made for another world." Lewis sought this joy in various places. He pursued it in pleasure, philosophy, mythology, and intellectual pursuits. But nothing filled the void. It was only when he began to seriously consider Christianity that he realized his search for joy was not merely emotional, but spiritual. It was a difficult journey. He resisted the idea of God, struggled against his own reasoning, and tried to convince himself that faith was irrational. Yet, little by little, the arguments started making sense. He found himself surrounded by intelligent Christian friends like J.R.R. Tolkien, and began to see that faith was not an escape from reality, but its deepest explanation. The moment of his conversion was described with honesty and humility. He said, "That year, when we were riding to the zoo, I gave in and admitted that God was God, knelt and prayed. Perhaps that night I was the most reluctant and dejected convert in all England." Lewis did not find God because he wanted to believe. On the contrary, he was drawn to faith almost against his will because the truth found him first. And when he finally accepted it, he discovered that the joy he had always sought was not an end in itself, but a reflection of God himself. This joy was not a fleeting emotion, it was a calling, an echo of a home he had not yet known but that, deep down, had always been his true destination. C.S. Lewis's journey teaches us something essential. True joy is not merely a fleeting feeling, but a sign that we were created for something greater. After his conversion, Lewis realized that the joy he had always sought was not the final destination, but a reflection of an eternal reality. He described this realization clearly. Joy is the serious business of heaven. But what does this joy really mean? Unlike earthly happiness, which depends on external circumstances, true joy cannot be shaken by what happens around us. It is not based on achievements, possessions, or recognition, but on something unshakable, our connection with God. Lewis understood that joy is not just an emotion but a calling. He wrote, "Joy is a gift, and its presence signals something beyond ourselves. When we grasp its true nature, we understand that we were not made for this world, but for something much greater. This means that true joy is not found within us, nor in what we possess, but in the one for whom we were created. It is never lost because it does not depend on the fleeting things of this life, but on an eternal source." This perspective completely changes the way we see the world. The good things in life, friendships, beauty, happy moments, are merely shadows of something much greater. Lewis compared it to a road sign. Books or music give us for a moment the feeling that we are on the right track, that we are approaching the goal. But they are not the goal itself. They are only the scent of a flower we have not yet found, the echo of a song we have not yet heard. If we understand this, we will realize that we no longer need to seek happiness in the wrong places. The world may offer good moments, but true joy does not come from here. It comes from God. And this discovery not only transformed Lewis's life, it can transform ours as well. If true joy does not come from circumstances or earthly achievements but from something eternal, how can we find it? C.S. Lewis showed us that this joy is not a goal to be achieved, but a reflection of our relationship with God. And this relationship can be cultivated in practical ways. Seek the truth. The first step is to recognize that this joy exists and that it points to something greater than ourselves. As Lewis wrote, "If I find in myself a desire which no experience in this world can satisfy, the most probable explanation is that I was made for another world." This means we must explore this truth intentionally. Reading scripture, reflecting on the writings of thinkers like Lewis, and questioning our own beliefs help us see beyond the surface. When we seek sincerely, we begin to realize that true joy is not an illusion but a calling. Live with purpose. Many spend their lives chasing momentary pleasures, but real joy comes from something deeper, living with purpose. Lewis believed that we were created with a mission, and that by aligning ourselves with that purpose, we find meaning and fulfillment. He wrote, "What you do in this life will echo in eternity." This means that every choice matters. When we stop seeking mere comfort and start living for something greater, serving, loving, and growing spiritually, we discover a joy that does not depend on external circumstances. Experience faith. True joy comes from a relationship with God. It is not something we create within ourselves, but something given to us when we draw near to Him. Lewis explained this simply. Look for yourself, and you will find nothing but despair. Look for Christ, and you will find Him, and with Him, everything else. This means we need to take a step of faith. Pray, seek God's presence, open our hearts to Him. The joy we seek is not a feeling we achieve, but a gift we receive when we surrender completely to God. The transformation is real. Lewis lived this transformation. He went from a reluctant skeptic to someone who found a joy so profound that he was never the same again. And this same transformation is available to us. Maybe you have sought joy in many places and felt frustrated. But what if, like Lewis, you discovered that what you have always longed for has been calling you all along? True joy is never lost because it comes from where it never ends.
Perhaps you have spent your life trying to find joy in places that, in the end, only brought temporary satisfaction. Perhaps you have experienced happy moments, but there was always an emptiness, a longing for something deeper and more lasting. If this longing persists, it is because it points to something this world cannot offer. C.S. Lewis understood this. He wrote, "God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our conscience, but shouts in our pains. It is His megaphone to rouse a deaf world." Perhaps this restlessness you feel is exactly that, a calling, a reminder that you were not made merely for the fleeting pleasures of this world, but for an eternal joy that can only be found in God. True joy is not based on external circumstances, does not disappear when we face difficulties, and does not depend on human achievements. It is a reflection of the purpose for which we were created. As Lewis explained, joy makes us understand that we belong to another world. Now the choice is before you. You can continue searching for joy where it will never be complete, or you can take a step toward the source of that joy, God. If this message has touched your heart, do not ignore this feeling. Reflect on it. Seek to know more about this true joy, and if you want to continue exploring topics like this, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here, we share reflections that transform lives. True joy is never lost because it comes from where it never ends.